Okay, folks, this is it. We are starting today on our Dog Park Block of the Month Raw Edge Applique designed by McKenna Ryan. Kits provided by Stitchin Heaven. And I'm going to do a video each and every month with all of you to help you keep up with our pace. This is really going to be an amazing project. Are you ready? Let's get started. Well, welcome back everybody to another fantastic tutorial right here at Stitchin Heaven. I am a quilt maker named Rob Appell, and this is incredibly exciting for me. Not only do I love dogs, not only do I love raw edge applique, but folks, McKenna Ryan was the first quilt maker I ever saw doing this kind of quilt making. So McKenna, again, awesome. Like 20 years later, here we are making applique quilts. And this is one of her most popular ones. And we do have the kits provided from Stitchin Heaven. And I'm encouraging you to join along, even if you don't have the kit we have provided. But because we have literally 1,000 of you out there working from our project base, I am going to refer to everything as it's coming out of your Stitchin Heaven kit. However, many of you have been working on this your own, and so there's a lot of great information. There's also going to be a lot of great information throughout today's tutorial all about applique and approach. And really today, because it's month one, we're going to talk mostly about setup and what we need to do to get ready. And I realized, first thing is I want to have my iron over here heating up, but it's technically dry. So there's water in my base, but the iron is set for dry. That's going to be one of the things, because on our fusible web raw edge applique parts and pieces that we have literally laser cut and get all of this stuff ready for you, it has the Heat and Bond Light, which is a fantastic fusible web. It's paper backed. The paper is still on here for you, but all the parts and pieces have been almost 100% cut. There's going to be little teeny tabs, and we're going to talk all about that. But before I get into the how-tos, I want to talk all about the tools you're going to need throughout this entire project, right? So I have tweezers available. I have a stiletto. I'm using a red pencil or something that I can mark on the back of the paper with. I have little fine applique scissors to snip out those little parts and pieces. The dog part came with some awesome embellishments this month, but we are setting that aside. Please note there is no sewing machine at all on today's set, because we won't be doing any stitching at least until, and that'll be optional, we get everything down. For me, well, we'll talk about that in a bit later. A light table, incredibly important. A pressing sheet can be also a great tool. I have a few bean bags here to hold my work down while I'm moving about parts and pieces. The Clover mini iron plugged in on the other side of the set, but this is going to be a great tool for setting the little stuff together as we're getting started. And I have it over here so I can keep it safely, because those get really hot. If you've never worked with those, be careful around the Clover mini iron. So big iron, little iron, big space. I have covered my work surface with my ironing boards. If you can see any of my cutting mat down here below, please note that there is a wooden barrier between. So I'm not pressing just on top of my cutting mat, but if you don't have a wonderful large cutting or ironing pressing board like I've got here, you really can, you really can use old parts and pieces of batting, but take your cutting mat off your table as you're getting ready. You're going to want a surface large enough to press out all of your background parts and pieces as we get ready. And this is going to be our, I should call it our canvas. This is our base. So we're now going to start right into the setup. We have a 35 by a 36-inch piece of background fabric. And folks, staying organized each month is going to really be the key to this. So I have used my design wall to put the large full-size pattern pieces up. Each month, there's a specific title to our block that we're working on. So we're working on Unleashed right now. Okay, and our interior part, this 36 by 35, is all we're working with, because we're building out the full quilt that you see here on the pattern. We're making all that you see. So in month 1, we're sending you the information here. We're just building this portion of it. So that's going to fit, as you can see here on your instructions. That's that center piece here that's actually requiring it to be 36 by 35. Now, we are using some of the, I should say, beautiful fabrics that McKenna originally designed to be used, these awesome ombre fabrics. So to get the cool color gradient of the dog park, you're going to want to look at your photograph that you're working with, make sure you have your fabric positioned correctly, and then you're going to cut it to fit so that it's going to be your 36 inches long by 35 inches tall. Then, because it's your background, this is one came to you in your kit with no fusible web on the back, right? All just raw fabric. The first thing I'm going to want you to do is take a moment and press out any of the creases. This would be the only time you want to use any steam at all as you're working through your project, but you're just going to press out any of the creases here. And then we're basically going to go into a really fun systematic paint by numbers. Now, like I've mentioned before, all of the pieces are basically cut out for you. Maybe this will be the easiest way to show you though. But even though they're cut out and you have your fabric key to tell you which one they are, once you flip them over and the fusible web you can see, well, folks, there's no way for us to number this. So I'm going to ask you to take a moment and you find on the different pages. So on McKenna's pattern, there are what are referred to, and let me just bring this in and show you here. A cutting guide, and the cutting guide are going to be broken down into color families, and those are going to be the different shapes, and I want you to put the information as you see in each box on the back of the parts and pieces as you recognize them. They've already been traced and like I said, they've already been cut out. You're just going to find the shape and number as you see, okay? Keep them on your fabric chunk as long as you can. That's the easiest way for me to stay organized with all of these as I work through both now looking at them visually for color and then finding their numbers from the map. So there is a cutting guide. And there's also, this is all cutting guide on this page, but as you can see out over here on my light table, the very cool key is the placement guide. So on our placement guide, we can utilize a light table and a pressing sheet to layer the pieces exactly where we want them. That's going to show our overlap, and that works terrific. So I'm going to use that trick for all the small, delicate pieces, and I'm going to basically eyeball and dry fit all the big pieces working from the background up as I see. I think I'll just use our bigger photo, working from the background up as I see needed within the project. Okay, so that means that I've got these largest big pieces and I got a little carried away and I've already peeled the paper off the back of them, but working from the bottom of the design up, I'm going to go ahead and start to just place now and smooth with my hand. The key is I will not iron anything down until I have a lot of spots anchored together. This is going to be a large piece, so it's not impossible that I can take my iron and tack it, but I'm not going to press the whole thing down because I want to be able to slide parts and pieces of our landscape as I go. Something tells me, nope, oh good, I thought I'd gotten it upside down. Now watch this trick, folks. I've already checked, but there's roughly about 1/2 of an inch of overlap, and I like to tuck, let's see, the foreground on top of the midground on top of the background. Okay, and you can find on your layout and placement guides, I even made little marks on the edge of my fabric where that distance was. But again, in our background, it really won't matter where we place our parts and pieces 100%. The only time it's going to really matter is when we're doing like our dogs, or maybe the bird, or getting the lettering in the lattice. That's where we want everything to be accurately placed so that we can bring our scene to life. But again, this is mostly just that backwash. We're gonna make some happy little trees and some happy little bushes here in a few moments, right? Okay, so I'm building this. I've got one long strip here, just following the flow of the background. And this is where I also like to use my stiletto so I can lift and slide as I go, using my dominant hand with the tool and then my non-dominant hand to kind of hold the fabric as I go along. And isn't it neat how the fabrics they just start to come to life so quickly just because of the gradient tones. I've always loved applique for this reason. Okay, so slowly again, working our way up. Using maybe the palm of my hand. Sometimes tweezers are going to also be effective once we're into the really small, intricate pieces. But again, we're not pressing any of this down yet, because eventually we want to be able to come in and lay some of our parts and pieces, let's say, underneath. And I'm just giving a quick example. I'm not actually looking at my placement guide, but you can see how maybe the trees can fall so nicely. And then that covers up that bottom edge. And that covering of those bottom edges will actually be a technical trick when we get into our anchoring them down with our needle and thread. These is a quilt, so we're going to need to stitch around everything. But it's, yeah, you can see this is really cool the way that, let me see if I put it here. You can see, again, kind of the way that goes ahead and works. So, okay, that's the way we'll handle our big pieces. And I know you all want to dive in, right? I mean, we've got our giant retriever looking guy right here. I know you want to get started and put him where he goes, but don't forget, folks, let me bring this in close, but we have some of the fence work behind and everything. So he's actually going to be a surface versus a background. And so I want you to look in, again, just looking at this square here, I want you to look through here and I want you to start to think, I'm going to build these rolling hills, then we're going to build up our trees, then we're going to put in our full gate work, and then we're going to put on the dog, right? Now, technically speaking, you'll notice that this just came out of the mail, came out of the package, and I've got a couple of big creases while there's still paper on the back. This is where we're going to get into, especially for those of you who have not done raw edge applique, fusible applique before. The glue that is in these applique pieces, the Heat and Bond Light, it only can be ironed so much before the glue will actually start to sink deep into the layers of the top surfaces. Applique fabrics, because they don't have the sizing in them, are most notorious for soaking up too much glue and not sticking on the second ironing. Because we have to iron them to the paper, and then we have to cut them out, and then we are going to peel that paper off, and then we're going to iron them to our background. So when I come over here to this wonderful little technique where we're going to iron these small little pieces all together so that I get my placement really crisp, so that I can then basically, using this Teflon pressing sheet, meaning a non-stick, I can move the entire plant, the entire dog, the entire part of the scene up in one piece, and then much more simply locate it into the background. So while I'm working in this procedure, in the fine-tuning work, the finishing work, I really want to make sure I don't over iron anything too much. So I'm going to turn my Clover Mini iron on to low. It has two settings. So I like low because I'm only wanting to activate the glue enough to help it stick between the pieces. Once I bring that entire piece back over, I will set it into the scene. And like I said, that's when I'll come back over. And this is why I love the Panasonic cordless iron, is I'm going to be coming in and doing a press and a lift motion. And you'll notice I have no cord that's going to accidentally bump into any of my stuff. So I know we haven't done much work yet on the actual design, and I'll come back in a little bit with it mostly finished, and I'll shoot a bunch of camera work in the background so you can see it coming together. but I really want you to understand the basic concepts if you haven't done an applique project like this before, because if you were like me when you first opened your package, that excitement might have changed to a little bit of being overwhelmed, as I was like, how do I get most organized? So I spent a couple days thinking about this for us all, and I really think this is the best. So again, organizing by color, making sure the numbers are on there. And now let me show you this really cool technique as I get in here and work on this smaller little piece, okay? And because of that concern about not wanting to over iron, I am going to take my background piece. This one's numbered 1. It's the branch or stalk system of the plant. And I'm not taking the paper off of it, folks. So let me show you. I'm leaving the paper on this so that this is not going to be over bonded to the Teflon. Then what we do is we find the pieces we want, and we come in here, and you'll notice, like I was starting to say, there's these little tabs that have been put together. And on the lighter fabrics, you can certainly pull at them. And the reason I say lighter is some of the darker fabrics will show a little bit of a run, like in the old nylons, because of some of this is digital printed to get the cool textures. So I prefer to use my little applique scissor, and I'm just going to come through and kind of letting the background bend away. I find this leaves a cleaner edge, and then I don't find all of those little teeny bumps in there that I still want to go back in and out. The reason this is so fun for me is I get to be very precise with the design work by the way I handle each applique and the way I place each applique. So I really enjoy tending to each part and piece as I go. Then I'm going to go ahead and get ready to remove the paper, kind of starting at an edge or a corner and kind of rolling that one edge or corner. And if that doesn't work, like it didn't that time, I'm going to take my stiletto or a straight pin and I'm going to kind of poke into just a groove or a gap to get a hold of that paper there, and then it will start to separate. Now I'm going to take that piece and I'm going to lay it right over on top of the green stalk in the background. And I'm going to, as I start to cover it, it's hard to now see what was the number below that. So that was number 5 from my yellow centers. So then I'm going to come over here where I have my number 5. And again, I'm going to pop out just the number 5 because you see how much easier it is to keep everything together as I go through. I have a trash can at my feet, so I'm putting all paper in the trash as I'm done. You don't want to just start peeling off paper though, folks. You want to know exactly, because that's where your number system is. You want to know exactly what number you're handling until you get it onto your layout. And then you maybe noticed that I can't even see at the moment exactly where that number 5 is supposed to be. But at this point, I can start to really look and just use my eye. And I don't want to fuss over anything too much. I wait until all of my pieces have been preset on the design, and then I fuss. I use my stiletto and I look really good and I fuss. And then once I'm done fussing, that's when I hit it with just a spot of heat on the overlapping areas so that I can then move it as it cools to the main design background. So as I get everything basically as close as I'm going to get it, you can see I'm not incredibly worried because it still makes a wonderful flower, even if my center isn't exactly where it goes or whatnot. I also, like I was starting to say, I love having these kind of bent tweezers because they'll give me the opportunity to come in here and lay on without really addressing or touching anything else around it, which is fantastic. And then, like I said, I just want to look and make sure that all my parts and pieces look attractive to me. I just flipped a piece over. Here's another great tip. It's shiny on the back, so run it under some light if you're not sure which side is which. The glue is shiny on the back, and you don't want to ever have that touch the bottom of your irons. Okay, so now we have our plant just the way we like it. And again, I'm going to come in here right now and I'm going to activate the white and yellow by just touching it here with my mini iron, sealing the white and the yellow together and activating it onto the green behind it. And again, you can see that some of my lines of my plant work is not exactly where it belongs in the image here, meaning that I got a little bit colored outside the lines, but it's not going to be terrible because it's a plant. And did you notice we started with the plant? And I suggest you do that too. Remember, this is your first month, so your skills are going to really improve as you continue to build through here. So start on the easier parts, the bigger parts, the bushes, the trees, and those things, working your way towards the dog with the frisbee and the little bird, where the parts and pieces are really pretty necessary that they stay accurate. I think you're going to do fantastic. I'm stalling a moment to let this cool so I can show you the next awesome trick. And please remember, we've got our fabulous Facebook group here available for you with the dog park. We've got the color code and our customer service at Stitchin Heaven. So we're here to help you if you need. Let's make sure we're communicating and posting our successes and any of our questions in the Facebook group. Okay, now watch. As I go ahead and get ready to peel this off, I can go ahead and lift it up. And now my plant is all activated and ready. Still have the paper on the back. And so now I'm going to come down to the bottom where that stem was, and I'm going to peel it up, and I'm going to be gentle. I'm going to use some gravity to help me, putting that part again down the trash can. And then I'm going to come back over here, and you can see that this gets pretty delicate and things can still be kind of moved gently. It's really nice. So now I can start to set this into my background where it goes. And then I can use either the master layout map, or I can just come back in here to the picture we have, and I'll want to note, oh, look at that. There's a shadow from the tree that goes behind that. So I wouldn't even be ready to iron this yet here. I would want to go ahead and grab one of the dark green shadow pieces and lay it background. So make sure, like I've said a couple times in today's video, don't iron anything to the big background until everything is where you want it and accounted for. If things get to moving and you're a little bit frustrated, just tack them as necessary, but make sure you leave plenty of room to work so that you don't iron yourself into a corner. Hopefully this was very helpful, folks. I will show you my finished product next month as we get started on month number 2. Make sure that you, like I said, are posting your photos this month in our Facebook group. And I will see you again very soon. Thanks for being here and enjoy month 1 Unleashed at Dog Park.